because I'm gonna go back. I want to go talk back also about the Nolan films as well.
Good
And
morning,
wait
good
one
evening,
second,
good
I gotta go.
afternoon, Geek Mythos, Geek Gods. I sorry to interrupt you, but I just said, well, we're gonna start it because you know what, you're talking about it, and we need to talk about it because we're gonna talk about the Batman. Yes, it's been a week. We didn't show up last week because, well, we saw the Batman, and we were like, let's just wait until next week so we could talk about it, spoiler free. I mean, not spoiler free, just like talk spoilers and just say, hey, you know what's on our minds, maybe compare it to the old movies, but we'll see where we go with the tangents. But this is just the Batman podcast episode. Everything else we'll discuss either next week or in the next 2 weeks, just because news has also been pushed from other DC movies like The Flash, Aquaman, and I believe what else was it? Black Adam.
Yeah,
So wonder what they want to do with that. I wonder why they did that, but we'll see. Um, do you have any ideas, opinions?
no clue on that though. It's kind of weird unless they're at this. I feel like they're doing what they did with Mobius. This was the success of Spider-Man. I think they needed to kind of fix
I feel
or
like that too.
alter
I
the
feel
film
like
a little bit.
maybe they want to connect it. Maybe they want to do something like that. I mean, they
I
didn't
don't know.
want to, but
I like the way the film went, but I don't. I feel like it should stay as a standalone. It's just stay there.
yeah,
It's like when Scott Snyder writes comic books, you know, we we don't he doesn't like to include
other
that
stuff.
world
Yeah,
outside
yeah,
unless he has to into the story, unless he's writing about Justice League. But he always separates the Batman universe from the Superman universe and all the other characters. So it felt like it needs to stay on his own. We need to see this Batman develop.
yeah. So let's talk about spoilers of the Batman. So this movie was phenomenal. I think it was a really good movie. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. But this movie did include, I think, three arcs from the Batman series, from the Batman comics, which was Batman Hush, Batman Year 1 and 2, and I forgot what the other one was. And I said in a video.
Batman Ego.
Oh, I heard Batman Ego too. Yeah. It was another one though. It's gonna bother me. I don't remember. It'll come up. Um, in the beginning, I was like, "Where are we going? What is this?" And then I was like, "Oh, the narrating." See, I love the narrating in movies like that, especially comic book movies, because in the
Yeah.
comics we get that. We get the internal monologues that we get for like what's going on in the comic. I mean, if
Yeah.
you could start it in the middle of a arc, it'll tell you what's going on. Batman will tell you what he's doing, what he's planning, what the Joker has done, or whatever, or Superman and the Flash, whatever. So I like the internal monologue. I like that we picked up right at the crime scene, and then everybody's just like, um, kind of looking at Batman like, "What the hell are you doing at the crime scene? Or why is Jim Gordon working with you and trust you? Like, what is this?" And then
Yeah.
the story plays out, and oh, I remember Batman: The Long Halloween. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I even own that comic. I can't believe it. That kind of slipped out of my head. But I mean, from what they picked out of that one is only a few things that they
it
picked
was a
out
few
of. Not
things. It was
yeah.
especially like Selena's
Yeah.
storyline in that, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good. I thought it was a great combination because it took out the really good. I wouldn't say plot twist, but it just, I guess I would say that, but also just like some internal dialogue that they had, some
Yeah.
um dramatic scenes that they put that they thought, you know what, this could work in live action, so let's try it out, and it did. I forgot his name, the one that played Falcone, you know who I'm talking about, the guy that played
Yeah,
Falcone.
no, I know. On John Turturro.
Yes, there you go. He was amazing in
Yeah.
that. I was so happy for him to be there and just be like part of the
Yeah.
DC universe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great because I haven't. seen him do a lot of stuff. Mostly, I remember he's been in a few Adam Sandler films where he was play a comedic role, but
Sneaky, sneaky.
he was in a lot of Spike Lee films back in the day.
Yes, yes, he was.
So
Yes, he was.
it's really cool that he got to play Falcone. You know,
Hmm.
I like the
Very
fact that
serious
they
role.
also
Very serious
yeah,
role.
and they also included oh, they had a Sal Maroni, which was really cool, but he was already not. He wasn't there anymore. It was
You're
in
right.
the background, which is cool. It's cool. It's that it doesn't feel like there's an it's like there was story. There was already a story behind this. Like there was already a lore behind already building in Gotham. So it's like we don't need to like explain how most of these characters came to be. They were
Yeah,
already there,
and I
and
like
which
that.
was really cool.
And I like that they didn't have to. They did emphasize on the tragedy and the origin of Bruce Wayne, but they didn't have to show us the freaking scene again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We
It's
didn't have to go see. It's like what they did with
Spider
Spider-Man,
Man. Yeah,
no way, the Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man films, to see that
he didn't
we
have to
didn't have to see
become.
that tragedy
Yeah,
again, even
yeah.
though
We
we'll
already
talk about
know.
that
The
in a bit.
fans know
Yeah,
what happens. They were like, You already know. Let's just get to the story." Boom.
yeah, we don't have to see it again. We know, but the thing is the only thing that they changed out of that origin is the history behind the Waynes and their
Yeah.
connection. And if you
So,
guys,
go ahead.
and their connection to, the Arkham family, which was really cool to add because it then started to feel like, ooh, I played this game before. You start to think like Arkham Asylum, and then like when you read the recordings and they talk about Arkham and Obadiah and all those characters. So it's like this is really cool. They're really bringing so much lore to the series, and in these 3 hours, we getting this short, brief history of what was going on in the background and what was going on behind closed doors and of these things. Because if it's like we get the Bruce Wayne and the Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne murders, and then after that it's like they killed these powerful people, and Batman comes. But then it's like now we're getting a sort of background on who these people were, and if in some way it kind of tainted my view of Thomas and Martha Wayne a bit. But then thinking about it, when you read the comics, you start to think it's like, oh wow, they gave history to Martha and Thomas. So it's like it's no different from when the comic books write it. How Nolan did it was sort of like clean. They were a good family. They were great, and they were doing a lot of things for the community. And then they get killed, and then the tragedy happens, and he becomes Batman. Here he becomes Batman. Doesn't know much about his family besides getting killed. And when he sees the flashbacks of everything that the Riddler threw at him, it was like, oh man, all this was like a lie, and he did a lot of the family did some crazy stuff, and which they could spike up a new story. And I know we were talking about it through text about the idea of like, you know, when we were talking about the Flashpoint and the possibility of that being Martha's history in that movie can come out. So you could talk about that. We were talking
Well,
about it.
well, actually, you were talking about the Waynes in the background, and I never played the game, but I was watching. I was so like in. I fell in love with the game, but I never played it. It was the gameplay of the Batman Telltale games,
Yeah.
and they did that history of Thomas and Martha Wayne getting involved with Carmine Falcone, and it was like them asking like, can you help with us, can you help me with this situation, but like not really like take care of it. But Falcone played in so much of that that like he got into their lives so he can so they can own him, so they can owe him later on. And it was very interesting because I was like, so did this man also play that game? Because
Hmm.
it's it because
You know what's funny? That Nolan did the exact same thing. Falcone sent somebody else to kill the Waynes.
yeah.
It's just we don't get the history behind it
Mm,
and why he did it. We just know that, the Waynes got shot.
yeah.
And then ended up Joe Chill comes out, he gets shot, and they say, Falcone sent me to kill you, and then he shoots him. And it's like, that's crazy. Falcone had a hand in this. But then if you think about it, when you watch the Matt Reeves film, you see behind the scenes of that story of why Falcone killed the Waynes, and then it's like, it's just like it's just bringing things out. Like this, let's touch on that. Let's touch a little bit on what that, because it's like also telling us that they weren't perfect. They weren't a perfect family, and which also kind of brings out that that Flashpoint paradox storyline of the idea that Martha could have become the Joker,
Yeah.
and Batman and Thomas could have become Batman,
Yeah.
but more in fact that with the fact that his what Martha went to the nut house at some point, and he was trying to cover that up because gotta say protect family.
You
So
got to protect the name, you got to protect the franchise and the
yeah,
brand and everything
exactly.
like that. So it's like, yeah, yeah, I agree with you on that one. And I thought that it was like, where was I going with this? I literally lost my train of thought. Um, it was interesting because Selena was saying, the white privilege and all that stuff, and I was thinking about it. I was like, we always assume because Thomas and Martha were always trying to better Gotham, build the Arkham Asylum, and open orphanage, and making Wayne Tech what it is. You know, when we see Bruce Wayne as like the white saviors, but in
Mhm.
reality, they were trying to make this image as the way as the saviors of Gotham, but in closed doors and everything. If you really look into it, you start to see like, yeah, they were involved with the this type of business. Alfred tried to tell Bruce like, no, they weren't, but yeah, yeah. I mean,
It's kind of like how we look back in the day. We look at some presidents. The
yeah,
idea
yeah,
that they're
they were
perfect, they
all
have
good.
this power, and they're all in control of certain things. But behind closed doors, they're either becoming adulterers or they've done something very sketchy in the past that they're trying to hide. Believe it or not, if you read the John F. Kennedy had I believe a sister who was sort of like a bit out there in the extreme, and they were felt like we need to do something about her because um that we need to do something about her because she's going to taint the Kennedy name, and then the family on a download decided to electric shock her and do some sketchy shit on her, which led to her being paralyzed and a whole bunch of stuff. If you read that, it's crazy that a lot of stuff gets swept under the rug, and just that idea that not even Thomas and Martha Wayne can escape their history. Like, regardless of how Bruce Wayne saw them as these great parents and how we saw them at some point through like the
Yeah,
Nolan films or through Tim Burton's films, in or even in the animated films, behind closed doors, they weren't perfect. They were going through things, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. I love the lore. I love that they brought like that. Like, you don't know everything. You might think you know, but you don't know everything. There's more than like. There was a quote. I forgot who said it. I think it was the Riddler. Like, there's more than you think you know, and it was like, can that be a possibility that because they even brought up the Arkham family, Courts of Owls next movie? That would be
Yeah.
fucking dope.
Yeah, there's so much possibility there. Like
Oh,
it's
on
to
top of that,
bring
like
in the court.
they made Gotham. You know, like they
You know what
gave
that reminded me
the
of once it
look.
got flooded? No Man's Land.
Oh
Remember
yeah,
that
you're
storyline
right.
when they had to
Yeah,
close in most of Gotham and there was just massive criminals coming out of nowhere?
yeah.
It felt like no man's land. Like that's going to be a certain point that it's going to be locked up. Who knows? They might turn it into Arkham City,
Jose,
and just that
Oh
idea that they have to lock that up because all that got
hi.
flooded. Um, yeah, and there's so much possibilities there of what they can do for the next films.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I like that. It was interesting. I that's a really good. That was a really good thought. Yeah, they could make it like the video game too. Yeah, yeah. What did you think? All right, so there was a critique that somebody said that they didn't like because Batman came in with like his footsteps and you could hear it. It's like that's not Batman and everything. I'm like there were certain scenes where he didn't even make a noise because people were like busy on their phones or something like that, and they turned
yeah,
and they didn't see Batman. So shut up, guy. First of all, shut up.
no,
But I like that he like made his footsteps aware and then bring that fear. And in the beginning, that train station, I forgot what the guy's name. I think it was we've seen him before in like movies. I don't think it was a I don't remember his name, but it was a kid that didn't want to do the crime, but then like tried to
yeah,
stop.
that's the kid that's playing Tim Drake
Jay,
in Titans.
yeah, can you fucking believe that? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting because I remember that I remember I went on in his Instagram and they were like, "Hey, Tim Drake is gonna be in that, and this is the role of Tim Drake." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I checked on his Instagram, and then when I checked on his Instagram and I kept scrolling down, and I said, "Wait a second, he's in the new Batman as as like a thug or whatever." So it was pretty interesting that they did that. It was like they included somebody from sort of the Batman mythos to be in this Batman film.
Yeah.
Um, no, but uh, let them critique whatever. I felt that showed fear, like him coming out of the shadows. It was like it's like it's like again, Matt Reeves said he felt like he filmed a horror movie, and that's what it felt like. It's like that monster when it's making the footsteps. It's like it's coming up the stairs, and you hear it getting closer and closer, and that's what it felt like. He was showing them like, he was trying to scare the hell out of them, and you could see like how shocked they were. Some of them in the background were like, or like that, and I was like, oh man, he's gonna beat the crap out of him.
Oh
It's like
yeah,
we've
that
seen this scene before. We're gonna know what happens next. All I was waiting for that yellow glow on top of Batman's head, and then all of a sudden he starts grabbing his arm and beating the crap out of him, like in the Batman games. Like you're like, and you start doing the counter attack.
I like that scene in the train station. I was like, oh man, I wish we get more of this. And then we kind of did. And what was it at the end? There was another fight scene. I don't remember what it was. Oh, when he's in the club. I think when he was in the club.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um.
Which time? Because well, this was the first time when he was gonna hunt to talk to Penguin. Then the second time he came in as Bruce Wayne. And then the third time he came in, broke in because he had to go after Catwoman.
I think it was the last time was the Beast moment because you saw the gunfire and it's just black. It just reminded me of again like we talked about it before the Darth Vader scene in
Yeah.
the yeah it was just like that and it was
The
shot so
armor was
beautifully.
pretty powerful, man.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Dude was taking
that
he
man
was
was
taking shots.
his suit reminded me of the video game because when you armor and you start getting XP and then you start getting that I forgot what it is and then you could what's it called upgrade it
Yeah.
into a ballistic I can't fucking think today. Ballistic resistance, it was really good. Um, yeah, it reminded me so much of the video game, man. They
Oh
really poked
no,
at it. Yeah,
it did. It did. The atmosphere on it felt like the first Nolan film. Uh, like the amber sky and the way he used the sort of orange around like the city of Gotham.
yeah,
It felt like the first Batman Begins. Um, then there was that awful streets and grunginess and how dirty it was. It felt like how Tim Burton had his Batman, his city. You know, streets were just awful and all that stuff. And it's crazy. They made it similar like to New York City. They had a freaking Madison Square Garden. You know, they call it
yeah. I
Gotham Square
noticed. Yeah,
Garden.
I like
And I
that.
was like, oh man, they made certain things like, and then it looked like Times Square a bit at
I
some
love.
point.
Yeah,
So it
when he
was like
was
they were
walking
trying to,
into the I think in the beginning when he was walking into the city, it was like Times Square ish. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Which is funny because it always every time I thought of Batman always came up every time I used to see those newspapers that were in those big bins outside of the city in the city. They always said Gotham something newspaper,
oh
and they
yeah,
always
yeah.
had like a newspaper. They always had Gotham on it, and I was like, man, this is like it felt always like Batman. Like I'm passing by and I'm in like real Gotham and stuff like that. It always looked cool, and it felt like Matt Reeves must have like taken some ideas of like how the city looks and you know originally that's what it was because I remember there was a conversation. I don't know where I read this from, but it was saying that downtown Manhattan is metropolis while the Bronx and South Bronx was considered Gotham. That was like his borough because that's where the crime was. It was very, it was up in a rise. And then, metropolis was always seen like very, huge conglomerates, businesses and all that stuff. So it felt like really big when every time Superman was in Metropolis. So that idea always sat on me. It's like if I ever came do a Batman movie, it would be like something that takes place in such like something like the Bronx and that sort of dinginess, criminal activity. Nobody wants to go there at it feeling. But it was oh man, it was so cool to be able to you know see a
Experience it.
new
Yeah,
see a new version of Batman that felt more than it didn't feel like a Batman felt like a detective comic because we haven't had that that detective version of Batman.
right,
He was
right.
smart, he was visual, he was always looking at things and I was like again, all I kept thinking when we think about the video game is that every time we did the investigation and all of a sudden you're like everything zoomed in, everything was blue when he was looking at things and everything was calculating in his like his computer and behind his mask. So I was like, it was really cool to see like he was looking at footsteps, he was looking at certain things, he was solving the riddles like nothing, and he was doing a hell of a it was they did a hell of a good job taking the detective part of Batman, which one of the things that we always missed out of the films in all of them. They never had that detective comics Batman.
They did so good. I love the detective stuff, and he answered those riddles really quickly, and I was answering it with them, and I was with him. I actually before him, and my girl's like, "How the fuck you know that?" And I was like, "It's man easy." But even I think if there's going to be sequels and stuff like that, and we're gonna see him later on, we're gonna see the detective mode because he had that lens type
Yeah.
upgraded. I mean, you could see like his tech is a little bit there, like a little bit
Yeah.
advanced, but
Yeah.
it's gonna keep progressing, and especially like yeah, the city does need Batman, but the city also does need Bruce. And I think that's where we're gonna start seeing his Bruce Wayne come out in probably the second movie. Again, it's his year two, of course, so we're gonna see that and how it's gonna play out with like the whole Playboy type of look too, you know. But with that being said, Wayne Tech is also going to improve, so we might see a Lucius Fox here and there, or even his daughter or his son, so they
Hmm.
can, with the I forgot his Lucius, no, not Lucius, Luke Fox, I think that's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Oh, Jeffrey Wright. First of all, Jeffrey
Oh
Wright
man,
is so fucking underrated as an actor. This movie, the What If series, it's fucking goaded.
the
Goaded.
One If series. He also, believe it, he in the audio drama in Spotify, he did the voice of Batman.
Really?
Yeah, it was Jeffrey Wright. And it's funny. In Shaft, the Samuel Jackson one, he played a Dominican guy. And to be honest, it took me a while to it took me a while to realize that this man is black, and he was playing a Dominican, and he played the role so good. And I was like impressed by Jeffrey Wright. Like, it's like, if this man could portray an ethnic individual this good, he's a great actor. He did a hell of a good job in Shaft. So it's to see him here, and I was like, that's why I was like, I had no problem of him being Gordon, like, at all. Like, I was like, he's Gordon. All
He
right,
was
cool. Like, it was no,
yeah.
like, because I've because of the things I've seen from him, I was like, yeah, it's fine. I got no problem with it. And their relationship was fantastic. I loved Gordon and Batman's relationship.
They
You got to
trusted
see
each
them both,
other.
like, go out there, like he was the player too. If there was a two player Batman game, he
Yeah, it
was the
really
player
was.
too.
Yeah, yeah. That'd be really good. He was his little Robin in the beginning. I was thinking of the movies in the 007 series with Daniel Craig. I think he was good too in there, playing like a CIA type of thing for the U.S. But yeah, he was so under. I think my favorite scene, honestly, is the scene, because
Oh
he like
yeah,
shoves him. He's like, "Stop, stop! I got
yeah,
this." Yo, he like
yeah.
put everybody under control. Oh my god. I think it was the commissioner at that time. I hated the guy's voice. I was getting irritated. You know what I'm talking about? You know the
Yeah,
talk, man, talk. You need some
yeah,
water? Cough it up, man. Shit,
yeah.
man.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. And
I
I
was
was
so
like,
over him.
it's funny. The guy got killed, and I was like, hey, nobody made this guy the commissioner yet. So I was like, I'm probably gonna we probably gonna see him, like, later on
Yeah,
becoming
we might see him
commissioner.
later
But
on. It's fine. It's fine.
yeah, but it was really cool to see him, you know, go out there. And actually, it makes a lot of sense, because I don't think as a commissioner he will be able to just travel with Batman everywhere.
Oh.
He will have to be, like, at a seat, because he's a very important person. Yeah, he will be with the investigators, but to do what he did in that entire movie, I don't think he will be able to do it as Commissioner Gordon. I think
No.
that's why they didn't turn him into a commissioner. I
The
think they
question.
wanted to, like, pull.
Yeah. The question I
Yeah.
had was, why the hell did Batman and Jim leave the Penguin right below that? I don't know that the warehouse or whatever the hell they were. Why they just leave him there? That
I don't
man
know.
destroyed the highway. What the hell?
It's crazy. I mean, Gordon is just letting that the whole situation slide like nothing.
I
Like,
was,
it's like, we should get this guy arrested. He just probably killed a whole bunch of people out
yeah,
there,
he
and there's a
probably,
tank
yeah.
that's gonna destroyed. Yeah, that was a little intense, and maybe that's the only takeaway from that entire thing. Because even the tank that Nolan had in his film barely broke anything.
Compared to
It was
that,
on top of buildings, and for some strange reason it didn't even cave in buildings. It was still driving on top of buildings. So that idea it was like, here he destroyed, like, the entire, like, highway was, like, destroyed. But then again, if you look at Hawkeye, and you notice that there's a freaking arrow on a bridge,
Yeah, that too. That
and no
too.
one
No
wants
one
to talk
talked
about
about it.
that.
No, no. There was no news
Like, how do
outlet.
we remove this? Do we have to go get this guy, Michael Douglas's character, to go shrink this arrow or something? I mean, and I think he would have been the one to get blamed. Yeah, there was one of those a big, huge arrow there, and they come to my doorstep, you know. But again, something I could, you know, I don't really care to think about because honestly, the whole movie was fantastic. So it's like, so he
For
destroyed a couple of cars. No
yeah,
more.
for
We got to see the
plot
penguin
sequences.
waddle.
Yeah.
So,
Colin Farrell, bro.
oh my dude,
Dude,
no, he
he
made
portrayed
that
the
villain.
character.
He was
Yo,
perfect.
it's hard to say he beat Danny DeVito, but it's like, bro, he really embodied the character so fucking well. First of all, when I saw
Yeah,
pictures of that, I was like, who the fuck is that guy? That guy is ugly. And then I
yeah,
realized it was Colin Farrell. I was like, there's no fucking way. My girl was like,
yeah,
what?
yeah.
Yo, there was no way. And then he did his accent, he did his voice, and it was just like, oh my god, it reminded me of the video game, like how he acted in the video game. This fucking asshat jerk face. I
You know,
own
it's
this
funny. He said
bitch.
he said he enjoyed it. He says he spent 4 hours on it, but once they got everything, once they knew how to apply the mask and everything and all that plus prosthetics, it only took 2 hours. And he said that he was in he did the that damn that YouTube video with thing where they eat the hot wings,
Oh yeah.
and he's with Sean. So when they were talking, and he was saying, you know, how did it play the role of the penguin, and then, you know how, and he said that you could get lost in that once you start. You know, it's like you're playing the role, you're doing dialect, you're doing all these things, but once you put on the prosthetics and everything, it's like you become that character. Like he says, it was so fun to play because you're another person. You're embodying this new person, and that brought me joy to my joy because Jim Carrey at some point was like dealing with stress when he was the Grinch. So that idea that the Penguin, Colin Farrell, enjoyed being in there, it's like it makes me feel like it's I'm actually joyous to know uh, I feel that when they're coming out with that new Penguin TV show, if it happens, that Colin Farrell will do a lot of great things with that character, and we're gonna be able to see a little like his growth and whatever. They said that they wanted to be. Matt Reeves said that it was gonna be kind of like Scarface, like
I
his
like that
rise to
idea.
power
Yeah.
and his character,
I
and
want to
I
see
could
the
see
X
that
Men.
because it was like he wasn't Penguin, like, kind of like, I hate this villain. Sometimes I see him in the Batman comics and I would care less about his character. I cared less about him in Arkham, like, oh, Penguin. And we fought him and it was like, oh, this is it. If it, it felt like nothing, but here felt like, you know, he's gonna he's gonna top Falcone and Sal Maroni. He's gonna be up there. He's gonna be like the kingpin of Gotham. And I feel like choosing Colin Farrell, and it's not somebody who's short, who's stocky, doing that, you could get scared. Because I feel like you see Danny DeVito, the worst thing you could do is like he's gonna buy my ankles. That's like, I
Bro,
feel
his
no
fucking
fear for
hand.
DeVito.
Yeah, his
He
hands in
was
that
great,
movie.
but
Yeah,
and
pretty
Danny
much.
DeVito, uh, if that's where we were at, we're still talking about the Penguin.
Yeah, in the Tim Burton movies, I think Danny DeVito had like three fingers in that. It was creepy
Yeah,
as
no,
hell.
he was a mutated, actual looking penguin of some
Yeah,
sort.
I was beyond scared, but he did a really good job. In the Gotham series, I don't know if you ever saw it. I mean, he started to, act like the Penguin, and he was starting to get the vibe of like doing everything with Falcone and learning how to, like, be a Don. and run the business and all that, like kingpin type.
Yeah.
But I never finished it after like season 3 or something. I saw some of the, like we talked about it before. We saw some of the episodes with Jerome and how he became the Joker, and then his twin brother and the look, and it was all of like at that time in the comics they had the End Game, um, the Batman arc of with Endgame, and how he took off his face and then put it back on and sewed it and everything. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that show had went through so many different incarnations. One person went into so many incarnations of Gotham,
and
But
they
I
did
honestly,
yeah.
I put Monahan on as one of the Jokers. He was freaking fantastic. When he first appears, and it was that scene that he was next to his father, who was a carny, and he says, "Yes, your mother loved you, but she never wanted to tell you about this." And he starts laughing, and that laugh was just perfect. It was freaking great. But he went through every single incarnation. He
I
even
loved
had
it.
the at some point he had the Ledger mannerism, like the way Ledger kind of right. Then they had the end game face, and then they had the sort of like what other one?
It wasn't the gangster, it was the other one.
Yeah, there was the gangster one that came in afterward. And when his twin brother ended up taking the role of the Joker, there was a more serious Joker. That was the more gangster, like the original when Joker first came out. Look,
Yeah.
he didn't have the laugh or anything. He just wore the mask and just blew things up, and he was more serious and very different.
But and then they had the Riddler in that one, and the Riddler like was like kind of weird, kind of like Shelton type of thing, and then it evolved into more. And I was like, Shelton
No,
could have
yeah,
always had that Riddler type of vibe if you ever,
no, yeah,
yeah.
no. I agree because even the yeah, it's that sort of personality, that awkward, socially inept, uh, don't know, it's like narcissist, like I am better than you, and I will tell it to your face, and even Sheldon did that too,
Oh yeah.
like he just like I'm smarter than everybody.
And if he lost
Remember they
it,
were doing that? Yeah, remember when they were doing that game where they were all trying to figure things out, and then he had the bowling ball, and I am smarter than everybody. Just that idea, and it's like the fact that when he bested Batman right then, where the Batman was trying to figure out something, and he said like he
you
started
don't
looking at him
know.
like, you don't know. And then just the fact that he bested him and he started singing the Ave Maria, and I was like, it's fantastic. This guy was just psychotic. It felt like that scene in Seven when Kevin Spacey's character is in the back of the car and he's talking to Brad Pitt and he's talking to Morgan Freeman's character, and he's serious in what he's saying and he believes everything he's saying. And it's like it was perfect. And then he also has that James Spader feel to him as well, like from Blacklist. Even Ultron being such a
Oh,
psychotic character too, in the way he sort of spoke with this, like, you know, I know this, I know what I'm doing. I did this and all this stuff. You
it's
know,
insane where he went with the recordings and everything, and the way he like
Mm,
had the mannerisms. It gave me like Joker vibes, but it also didn't because he made it his own type of thing.
yeah,
In the end he started singing the Ave Maria. His laugh was weird. His crying fucked me. It like was fucking weird as fuck. It started making me laugh because it was just like, this man is fucking psychotic, and he made me
yeah,
believe, yo, that guy is fucking goated. Like, that man knows how to
yeah.
act. Um, and just
That's one thing that they really never touched on. I don't know. I've seen people get killed by the Joker so many times, but I felt like this Riddler sort of, they turned him into a serial killer, obviously,
yeah, yeah.
and I know they ended up getting their this is their idea from the Zodiac killer, where he used to send messages
Yeah,
to
and
police
yeah.
precincts, and they had to figure things out. He was always in a mask with, you know, they said he was in a mask, and he had like the glyphics or the things that he would, you know, how he wrote write things down. So it was like that, you know, that's what it felt like. Uh, in an interview of Paul Dano, when he was playing his first scene as the Riddler, he has a plastic wrap in his head, like Reynolds wrap in his head, and you could see it in the movie. And he said at some point he was like sweating and almost getting very freaking dizzy in the scene, that he felt like bad to actually ask the director, like, yo, let me get some time right now. I'm not feeling too well. I think because, you know, what he was wearing and all that stuff. Even they were complaining a little bit on how hot things were. Because even Zoe Kravitz was talking about how sweat was like going down his face, her mouth of Patterson, when he had him on, like, holding her in the house, in the building.
In
So
the club, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so it must have been freaking hot, and
Oh no, it was in
especially
the
when you
house
look at
because she was trying
it
to
was the
break in
where
the
the guy got
passports.
killed. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So no, it was, he was so good. I loved Paul Dano. He was in that movie where Hugh Jackman and Terrence Howard, that they kidnapped the daughter, and then Hugh
Oh,
Jackman kidnapped
yeah,
him
yeah.
and started torturing him to see where his kid was, and he didn't want to say, and he was always playing these crazy roles. What else he was in? Oh, Little Miss Sunshine. He played he was he was playing a mute throughout the whole thing. I mean, he was able to talk, but he was doing something where he was staying mute and not to talk with anybody, and he was like writing things down. He barely said any words in an entire movie, until at some point in the movie he ends up having to talk. But uh you know, and I loved Paul Dano ever since then. So when they said that he was going to be Riddler, and I was like, how are they going to portray his character? How are we going to get the Jim Carrey sort of tight? We always saw that Riddler where he always wore the suits and the hat and all this stuff, but they went another way, and I was like, I don't know about this. But then after that, that really didn't matter.
I was like, what the fuck is this look? I don't like it. I hate it. I am not okay with this Riddler. But holy hell, did my mind change when I saw the movie? And I was like, damn,
Yeah,
damn, they did go that Zodiac vibe. And I was like, oh, because when I first saw it, I was like, oh, this is a Zodiac type of thing. Okay, but it's kind of weird
yeah,
because it's not him.
yeah,
But then once you got to see the movie, it was like, it was that animated Hush movie that really like everybody hated at the end because of the way it went. And it wasn't Elliot that was supposed to be Hush. It was the Riddler, and he took off the band-aid and everything. He had that stupid question mark on top of his forehead, but he had like that, like, who am I really, And then we find out it was him and everything, and it was a clay face that was him in I think it was Arkham at that time, or was it I think it was Arkham, or was it the other one? What's the other one? Blackgate. Blackgate.
yeah.
Um, But yeah, where was I going with this again? I keep forgetting, yo. I'm so bad today. Uh, I think. Oh yeah, the animated stuff. Like it was just like, where were we gonna go with this? And
Yeah.
someone pointed it out today that like the glasses that he was wearing, like it was like transparency or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like you could see through it. It's very similar to the one that Jim Carrey wore in the movie with Val Kilmer.
Mm,
And it was like that homage of like, yeah, we're not gonna forget about that. We're just gonna,
yeah.
here you go, and boom.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that.
Yeah, it was really cool. And thinking about it, the funny thing is that I don't know why, but I think he must have. If Matt Reeves probably did get some idea from the movie Seven, because one, the way comes out is that he kills a whole bunch of people to show everybody why he was doing it, and then in the end, he throws himself to the cops and gets himself caught. because he's gonna show his final, his final murder, kill, or whatever. And then, just like Batman, he did the exact same thing. He killed a whole bunch of people, got himself caught, and he shows his card in front of Batman, lets him know this is what I still got, you know. And though he got, I just, it was, oh man, it was so good. It was just so interesting how they did this, and he was just killing people. And it was one person that I was like, everybody felt like nobodies that he was killing. Like they were not big top actors. The only person that was, uh, that was there, that was a John Turturro, because he was Falcone. But then the other actor was the other guy, the one he blew his head off, that had the attachment around his neck,
Oh yeah, I forgot his name.
because
I
he's
know
a
you're
he's
talking
a
about.
major actor too.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, oh man, he's in this film. Like he wasn't even there for that long. And then his head comes off. He blows up, which is crazy. And I was like, I can't believe Batman took that freaking explosion like full force head on. Like that was insane.
I would have backed up a little bit, but it's Batman, shit.
But also there was one there was one thing that was weird to me, that he wanted them to solve the riddles so he could let him go. But Batman was telling him the answers. And somehow the Riddler was like making it seem like you got guessed correct. And I was like, wait, you didn't hear Batman give him the answer? Like it was like, wouldn't you feel like you're cheating? Blow
Yeah,
his head
yeah,
up,
yeah.
like I thought that was gonna happen. Like, no, you failed. You had someone help you. No, no, and his head just blows off. It would have been great just to have him Batman feel that sort of guilt too. Like I screwed up, you know. But
So
again, it's
that scene right before that happens, when they're in that church and they're going through the funeral type of thing, and then the car, runs into everybody, and he's just standing there and he's looking at him, and he's right there in that balcony thing, or that bridge thing that's in the church,
yeah.
and he's looking at him like, wait, does he know that he's Batman? Right there? Or
Yeah.
is that just like because he's looking at him and he's going to go after him? And he did
Yeah.
go after him, but he went for Alfred. Well, Alfred picked up the package. Why would Alfred pick up the package though?
No, yeah, that was a little bit off. And I said, wait a second. He knows the investigation. He's doing the investigation. He's in their house. How is he not picking up his phone? He's the butler. And I was like, this is strange. He's obviously in the house. And another lady who we've never seen before, even in the Batman mythology,
No.
somebody was living, it was also part of the mansion. It was there. But yeah, he picked up the package. And it was like, yo, you did the investigation. You know what this man is and what he's capable of. But yeah, you picked up the package and you noticed that it was from him, you know, but you kept opening it up. Even when you saw it was Batman, it was like later on, you still like, you had to wait for like the explosion. You knew that it was a freaking bomb. And I was like, Alfred was smart, but not too smart,
Yeah.
you know.
No, but he
But
didn't hear
Andy
the
Andy
he did.
Serkis was great.
Oh yeah, Andy Serkis was great. But he didn't hear the no, he didn't hear the ringing because it already happened. Batman was already late. He was an hour late.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah.
man.
He didn't. So he called. He was calling and like yelling at the in the car, like, "Oh, hey, it's can you?" He changed his voice to Bruce. Hey, can you pass me to Alfred? And he talked to him, and he's like, "Oh, but sorry, honey, it already happened." And I was like, "You're an
Yeah.
hour late," and I was like, "Oh, fuck!" Like that shit dropped my heart. I was like, "No." That was tough. That was tough. But where was I going with
No, but
this?
it was yeah. Yeah, no,
Oh,
that was
but then at the scene when he's in Arkham and a Batman's there, and then he starts saying Bruce Wayne, Bruce. He looks at the camera. He's like, "Fucking no way did he figure out I'm Batman." Because when he was at the other place, he found out he's like, "I know who you are." So then in the place he was like, "There's no way," and then he's like, "We almost got him," and you saw the relief of like, Wait, what? He didn't get me, this son of a bitch. So then that's where he started acting aggressively because he was like, "What else did you do? What else?"
Yeah,
I
it was
just
really cool. Like
that scene was great.
he had that whole serial killer vibe too, like the tilted head to the side, and it's just saying and having the conversation, how calm he was, and then it was really cool. And you see Batman like freaking spazzing out.
Man, they make those interrogations or like those scenes, like just the jails, so good with Bruce. Like that's another second iconic scene that you're gonna have to talk about now, when you put it up against the Heath Ledger scene at the, whatever they're at in the prison.
Yeah,
So yeah, I just enjoyed that. I enjoyed that a lot. Yeah,
yeah.
this movie was great, man. What'd you give it out of 10?
Out of 10, I remember I said an 8.5. There was, you know, we had these errors and stuff like that. Again, like, Batman really didn't take any, somehow, no, there was no consequences beside that road rage scene. There was moments, but I mean, it could be forgotten, but those things are just like, you're gonna have to look as like, dude, he just destroyed, you know, a highway right now. It's like you should really, like, Batman's not, he's careful. It's like he just went kind of crazy. But yeah, I give it an 8.5. Definitely.
I gave it a
I feel
9.5, and I was like, well, it was that scene with the penguin. I'll give it a pass because we've seen this type of crap things where it's like a little plot hole of like, why didn't you do that, it's hero or heroes? Like, why didn't you work on that and not, and we've seen that in like TVs and movies and series and all that stuff. Fine, whatever. And then it was also like, was a little bit long, like just a little bit long. Like I think there was certain scenes where I was like, I get what you're doing. You're trying to give that image and like keep that energy going through the audience, and you're just like kind of like zooming in or coming out of it. And it's just
yeah,
like it's just taking too long.
yeah.
But I did enjoy it. I liked it, and it was very suspenseful. It was very. There was a thriller vibe. It was also giving me anxiety at the printing because it was like, well, no way is Batman going to fight like 30 fucking cops in that little fucking, interrogation
Oh no,
room.
yeah. I was like, oh man,
That
this
would be fucking.
sucks.
That
Like
was like, there's
losing.
another elevator scene just like Captain America. Like Bruce just, I mean, Batman just going all out. Like that'd be cool as fuck. But we didn't get to see that. The whole chase scene. Oh, what'd you think of like the when he came out of that preen scene and he jumped out and he had the flying suit. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, the inflatable like suit thing.
Yeah,
It was really cool.
he hit that pavement really fucking hard though.
Oh man, he did. I feel like this is just his way of like still sort of building around his suit, like he's still brand new to it, and like he's still getting a get up. But it's like, again, it's very close to Lee Bermejo's Batman, that soldier tactical suit. It's like leather and like more baggier and not so like tight. It's like a marine type outfit. I feel like Matt Reeves did his research and just didn't just say like, oh, this is how the Batman suit's gonna look, and this like
Well, I
that.
like I
It
like that
was.
because like that's what they did with Christopher Nolan's Batman. Like they didn't give him that flying suit up until maybe the middle of the movie or something like that, or was it the second movie? I think it was the first movie. It was just, yeah, it was the first
When he
movie, but it was
flew, it
like
was the
later.
first movie.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was later in the movie. That's when the technology became a little more here and there. But in
yeah,
this one, it was more like, well, no, we're just gonna keep it 6 days. It's not gonna go throughout months because I think he was Batman throughout a couple months in the Batman Begins movie. But in this one, it was like a couple weeks. I think it was like 6 days. I think he said. So all that happened in 6 days.
yeah.
So
He
it
was.
was.
I mean, it kind of makes sense because we don't flow. films don't flow through time the way we flow through time. How 6 days is, or compared to like how films have to, like, yeah, this happened in the span of 6 days. Doesn't feel like it, but it's like it needs to be said in order for everybody to know. It's like, oh man, this happened in a short period of time. All this craziness, it's bananas, and thinking about it, for those 6 days, he never rested. He must have been tired and taking a shot and getting hit and banging himself against things. And oh,
I mean, that
it's just
man, yeah. Oh my God. Okay, so the scene at the end when he's at the stadium and he's trying to climb up, there was that moment because it shot the senator and then it shot to him, and he's like trying to climb up at the freaking TV thing in the middle of the
yeah,
arena on top, and
yeah,
he was trying to
yeah.
climb up or something like that, and he was trying to go to the side. It just reminded me of the video game again, so he could just like lift up and then just attack people. That whole scene was good. He used his batarang. He used a big batarang in the middle of the chest. Just like
Yeah,
it was huge. That shit.
yeah,
That was huge.
it
That was
was.
huge.
That was pretty cool because it's like I was like, oh, okay, that's what that is too. Yeah, I didn't think it was like you could detach it and whatever, but it
Yeah.
seems like it comes in handy in moments like that, like when he had to, like, he had the rope. He was at the rope and he had to snap it
Cut it
before
down. Yeah.
everybody got electrocuted at the bottom. And the idea that he spoke of hope in the end said a lot, because it looks like he he isn't. I don't think he's doing it. Wait, it makes me see that he's now not thinking about it as he needs to stop crime. It looks like he needs to save people now. You know, like he had some sense of hope on this. That people working together, that were trying to get out and trying to help each other, and he started seeing something new and started feeling something different compared to
Yeah.
exact vengeance. All these criminals are gonna get it,
Well, in the
and
beginning, he
but
was like,
here,
yeah, good.
yeah, it was different compared, because when he was like in that scene when he saved that guy from those gang members, the very first scene, the guy was like, please don't kill me. It was a different view of how he saw and how he was seen. Then here was different. Saw hope, and then that woman he saved, and all of a sudden held up onto him, and it was like, I got you, don't worry about it, you'll be okay. you know it felt like he's kind of seeing a different perspective now. We might get a different Batman because of this ending.
Oh yeah,
He'd
he
probably be
went
the
through a
same
character
brutal
change.
Batman or whatever, but I think there's going to be a little bit more heart for the people, and he's going to be, like, it, a more calmer and less rage Batman, maybe.
Well, he went through a change, of course. Like in the beginning, like you said, he was going through this fear, of vengeful, I'm vengeance. That's what he said.
Yeah,
And then throughout the middle, and when he's talking to Alfred, he's like, yeah, but like, I think he was like, the people don't need that or something like that, or you're going through something and you don't need to go through that, you know.
yeah,
And he started to be like, oh, okay. And then right when he started saving people and he put up that flare and he was like, "Give me your hand," because we didn't see that. It was just more like he was attacking the thugs, and then he just looked at people. That's all he did. He looked at the boy, and then he looked at the guy at the train station, and then
yeah,
when he put the flare up, he put his hand out for the senator. Mind you, she was shot, but and I was like, all right, is she gonna use her hand? Because she was shot on the right hand and the right
yeah,
shoulder. She gonna use that right arm. She didn't. I was like, okay, good. What's it called? Continue continuity. Because
yeah,
people do fuck up on that.
yeah.
Saved the kid, helped him out, and then he started helping people. And I think the National Guard was there.
Mm.
I think that was. I was like, wow, it's very interesting because you never get to see Batman and the National Guard like ever do that type of stuff. I always got to see him with the
You get to really
GCPD.
see Batman in the freaking daylight, but it was daylight, and he was like helping people out and stuff. And we don't really get to see that. I think again, even it was really odd to see Batman fight Bane at broad daylight in Dark Knight, the Dark Knight Rises. You know,
Yeah.
every time he came out to save people, he was coming out as Bruce Wayne in the Dark Knight. Remember when he was now with his little Porsche or whatever he
Yeah.
was
The
driving, and
Lamborghini.
then
Yeah.
yeah, so he was like, you know, saving that dude that was gonna get killed after he said he wanted to tell people who the hell Batman was. So, you know, it was different here, and you know, we got to see a different side of him. Of
Again, that's
you
also
know,
where we're gonna see Bruce Wayne come into play in the next movie. Hopefully, I just want to see
yeah,
that progress, and maybe we're gonna get to see a Robin. I was like, can we get a name drop somewhere, like Grayson's or maybe
yeah.
somewhere
There
like
was no
that?
name drop, but you could see how he wants to protect. He wanted to protect. You know, it messed him up that the child had to lose his parents, and he had to be and the child saw that. It started reminding him of
Of
him.
himself,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah. I think we'll see
so
that. Maybe that'll resonate with him later on. Maybe
yeah.
he talks about it, or maybe it's I don't know. But I hope we get to see that in the movie, in the next one. Ah, man, this movie was so good, man. They really did
You know,
like.
there was something interesting that sort of caught my attention a couple of hours ago. I was thinking about the Long Halloween, and I was like, yeah, I remember Sal Maroni was the one who ended up throwing the acid in Dent's face and made him into Two-Face. But Sal Maroni's nowhere in sight. He got caught. In this world is different, you know, in this Batman world. Falcone's taking over. And I was thinking, what if he's already he already threw the acid at Dent, and Dent is already in Arkham. Like he's, you know, because where he said this is an origin for the villains. This has nothing to do with Batman origin. It's just the villains coming out because Batman exists. And it's a different vibe now. It's different. You know, it's like what Commissioner Gordon said at the end of Batman Begins. You know, you know, people. It's like you start wearing Kevlar. People start having, you know, bulletproof, you know, armor piercing rounds. You know, and then you came in, and then that's when he gives him the Joker card. So it's like, you know, his rise in the city is gonna start making crazy freaking people. You know, already we got a Riddler. You know, Joker's already on the download, and he was already in Arkham. And Batman has been as Batman for a while now. I think 2 years. It was said he was there, Batman, for 2 years
Yeah,
in Gotham, already
yeah,
serving as Batman.
yeah.
So, you know, so the idea that at some point he may have caught Joker and then put him in there, because Matt Reeves said he doesn't have any idea that he doesn't have any there's no future talk of Joker being in the sequel. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Joker was just an appearance that came out. He's just like he got caught. He's in
Apparently, there were
Arkham
two
already.
scenes that were shot for the Joker that did
Yeah,
not make it into end cut. No,
yeah. No,
so
I won't be
that's
surprised if
very
it's
good.
in the deleted scenes or whatever in the
I really
DVD.
would like to see, Clayface in the movie, and I
Yeah, it's
understand,
funny.
and maybe a new Mister Freeze. So maybe a team up of like some sort. Maybe not Clayface and Mister Freeze, but maybe Mister Freeze with someone else, just because. But Mister Freeze's arc would be really good just by himself.
Or Robert Pattinson, for some strange reason, it says he would like to see Condiment Man.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw that. I was like,
Yeah, and I was like,
you get to punch him and
I
that's
would
it. It's
like to,
fine.
it's like the only way they could see some stupid character like this is only it was like a bank robbery.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just him coming in there, like trying to rob the bank in this stupid outfit or something like that. And you know,
I'm
just
ready.
that idea, and just like getting beat the crap out of by Batman, just simply just let that be,
You know
like it's
that's
just like we can't take it serious,
you
like
know that
this.
scene in Spider-Man 3 when he's done fighting the Sandman in the beginning at the when he tries to steal the money from the what's it called, the money truck, whatever
Yeah,
the shit is called. And he's on the rooftop and he starts taking off his mask and the sand comes out and then he takes off his boot and the sand comes out. You just see like Batman
yeah,
take off his mask and you see ketchup and mustard all over.
yeah.
That'd be funny.
uh but Matt Reeves is going is I think he's going to touch on the Court of Owls. I think he's going to
Oh man,
get
that would
into
be
that.
brilliant
That'll
to
be
touch on that.
that'll be
See
so
who they
good.
would cast as what was the Towelman? No, the Owlman. It wasn't the Owlman. It was something else. It was another name
It
for
was Talon.
Talon Man. Yeah, Talon, Talon,
Yeah.
Talon. Sorry, I don't know why I keep saying man. Talon. It'd be really
I always
cool.
felt that after the Court of Owls came out and that Earth had in Owlman, I always felt that they should have done something where they had they made a connection between Owlman's character, because he was just an alternate version of Batman, and the Court of Owls. But they never touched it. Like I was like this, so I felt like there could be potential to sort of cross those two, you know, those two characters, those two worlds together, and to make it seem like Owlman is was part of the Court of Owls or something like that. I would
I
have liked to see somebody come out with a story where it's like they should do that. That would be pretty cool. That idea that Owlman in that world is part of the court and they have taken control, and this is like his, he's the Batman of that era because the court ended up, you know, turning him that way. Kind of like, like instead of Batman becoming part of the League of Assassins, he decided to become Batman and separate himself from it. But let's say the Owl Man actually stayed with the court
that would be
and
fucking
became
dope.
part of that world.
They
That
would
would be a
somehow
really cool
find
stuff.
to
But
like,
yeah, but I always thought I even a little bit of it somewhere where it says the connection, they would never connected it in no way. And I was like, no, whatever.
they
Just
should
leave
do
it as
that.
is.
But it was weird because I was thinking about like, okay, let's say perhaps that this Batman finds a John Cena. This Batman finds a Superman or a Wonder Woman in the world. It'll be hard for me to see him with that. Only I don't know what it is. Like in a Justice League, I don't know
Yeah.
why, because I feel like this is a own standalone universe.
Yeah.
But to see maybe the Court of Owls find to go to a different universe somehow, and then
Yeah.
pick up that element, that'd be dope. Just be like, we need you. Like this man is destroying them. But then again, like they could get other people, and then they have the talent. He could go up against Batman and all that stuff. It would be cool for that. For it would be cool if they make Dick Grayson storyline happen and he goes in between the two. So he finds out about Bruce being Batman, but then the Court of Owls are like, no, but hey kid, how you doing? Let me tell you about us. And so then he's
Mm.
indecisive.
Yeah.
That would be cool. And then like he learns a little bit of them, and then Bruce finds out more about them, and that's where like Dick decides whether he wants to be with Bruce or the Court of Owls, because the Court of Owls did say, I think in the comics, like, no, but we wanted Dick Grayson before, we wanted
No,
you.
yeah, they were appointed from like the moment of birth, I think, at some point. And when he found out about it, that's when Batman cracked him in his freaking face and took out the tooth that sort of was like sort of in their way of saying, well, we already copywritten Dick Grayson that's going to the court.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was like they were, but it's like, oh man, I would love to see that. Just to see like the Talon and all the other court just come into his freaking house, and he's just beating the crap out of all of them and fighting them all and hand in hand, and just to see him, because now we get to see a Batman that's like that's brutal and doesn't like it doesn't even look like he's gonna hold back. He's not gonna pull his punches.
Yeah.
Like if he starts when it's like when you realize it's like, oh, these dudes are undead. They're not even freaking fully. He's gonna beat the crap out of nothing, And also that quarter of hour story when they did that Batman versus Robin animated series cartoon was just horrendous.
I mean,
I
it
was like,
wasn't
oh, they're gonna use
great,
the
but
yeah. It's like
the
no, but I
fighting
felt like
sequences, I will say, were really good. Especially
no,
with Talon
the
Batman.
fighting
Yeah,
sequences were good. I would not say it wasn't. But the thing is, it's like I felt like the story's already there and is well written. Take from it, but they barely took anything from it. They didn't. I would love to see that sort of element saying, when Batman is trying to figure out, is there more lies about his parents? Did he really have a brother? Did he, what's happening? What's going on with that? Just to have him trying to investigate the city and finding out that there was a secret society that exists in
yeah.
Gotham and he didn't know about it. And he's been living here for like so many ages. He knows the nooks and cranny, but not every single stone he turned to see what's going on. So I would honestly, I'll probably read it again. Just
Kind of
that
would, yeah. I would like to pick up on it again just to see the.
it
Yeah, I
was
think.
funny because there was an interview, and no, not an interview. The cast was there: Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, Colin Farrell, Zoe Kravitz, and Robert Patterson. They were all there, and there was just people throwing theories. And somebody was talking about, oh, what if we're hearing that's Batman, but what if Robert Patterson's Batman was actually Thomas Wayne and not Bruce Wayne? And there was just people just showing theories, and they were talking amongst each other. But then somebody spoke about Court of Owls, and it was just fascinating when they were like talking about the Court of Owls, and I think they were telling Colin Farrell, hey, you should read it. It's a great book. And Paul Dano said, yeah, it's an amazing book. You should all go read it. And it was like all of them were just talking about how they read the book and that they're like trying to give, like Colin Farrell to like read it. Like it's a really great book. And I was like, man, they like, you know, I guess they want to touch on that. The way they're talking about it, it'll be great, to touch on, uh, uh, just to see that happen, that would be so cool to see. Just to have just the face
Just the
mask and all that
masks,
stuff.
yeah.
I've been wanting to buy that
DC will
mask.
sell and like make bank out of that. I mean, they
Yeah.
tried to do that with the comic. I think it was like a anniversary, or maybe it was just it, and then like they had the comic and then the mask. I think it was the arc. They were trying to
Mm.
sell the arc and then the mask.
Yeah.
Then the mask itself in like Barnes and Nobles or something like that. I think I saw that once. But yeah,
Yeah.
I would, and then you would definitely see that in like Comic Cons and cosplayers. More than usual. I mean, I remember Harley Quinn. The movie came out, and then boom, Comic Con came, and everybody was wearing that. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's all we got from today. Just like 9 out of 5. You got 8 out of 5, 8.5, 8.5 out of 10. I got
Yeah.
9.5 out of 10. It is what it is. It's still a great movie. Would love to see a sequel. I think that they would do. That's such a great cast.
I want them to take their time and to do it right. I don't want them to rush it just because it's a hit and Warner Brothers is like expecting this movie to come out. I want them to
And
start,
still
you
give
know,
that detective side. I still don't want that to
yeah,
go away. Like that.
yeah,
That's what brought a lot of fans in. Was
mm.
like we're going to get a detective side that we didn't really see in the movies like that, and like he's
We
trying to
needed the
figure it
Riddler.
out. Yeah.
We needed the Riddler to bring that detective side out.
Oh yeah, because
Most of
he.
the other villains always bring a certain characteristic out of Batman. You
Yeah.
know, uh, we didn't get it. It was difficult to even get a detective side in any Joker story because he was unfreaking predictable and he was always knowing he was a little smarter in some way because he was smart. He was just not. He was unpredictable. He never knew where he was going to pop off at. So in but yeah, to keep that, to at least still have that detective side, because it makes them, it's like, oh, okay, we're getting this Batman, because we never got to read a definitive Batman. The only definitive Batman is in the animated series, you
Yeah.
know, but every Batman had a certain different version of
Elements,
him.
a
There was a
version of
different
him. Yeah.
incarnation, different
Yeah.
version of them. Just like the Jokers, we never had a real like definitive Joker, like Mark Hamill's Joker in the animated series. We always got a different type. Heath Ledger was different. Yeah, Jared Leto was way out the box. Even Jack Nicholson was way out the box as well. It
Gangster
was,
type. Yeah.
it was like they were all different. They were not all that, you know. But if you put them all together, you probably get like the definitive Joker.
Yeah. Well, with next week or in 2 weeks episode, we'll talk about Superman Lois, because holy hell, did some shit happen in Superman Lois, and we need to talk about that. I do have a theory of my own, which I will post on TikTok, but I actually already posted on TikTok. I don't know if you want to just run by it really quickly. Ali Alston, the one that's doing the whole cult thing, I think
Yeah,
low key, I think she's Granny Goodness. A lot of people are saying that she's the comic book version of a different take of the comic book version of Alliston
yeah,
something Alston, I think, is Parasite. So
yeah,
that's what they're saying, but I don't feel like that's who it is. I think it's just Granny Goodness in a different take, because she does have that
yeah,
look.
yeah,
Not saying she is a granny, but I'm saying like that would be a really cool look and just like a different take.
yeah,
Especially since she's leading a lot of like women involved. So I don't know.
yeah,
Um, but we'll see what happens. Really good episode this week. I fucking teared up. I'm not gonna. No, was it this week's that I teared up? I think it was this week's that I teared up. I was like, damn, that shit got me sad. No, it was last week's. I'm sorry, with the quinceañera thing, and it was just like, damn, that's
Oh
such a
yeah,
yeah,
it was
yeah,
messed
yeah,
up, man.
yeah. That's pretty messed up. I cried. I was like, damn, that shit hurt my heart. It felt really real. And I didn't really care about Lana Lang's like family like that, you know. And I even said that on TikTok, and people be like, "Yeah, I didn't really care about that, about her
Yeah.
storyline. We did just skip it." I'm like,
No, but
"Yeah,
I kind of enjoyed what happened in this week's episode,
yeah,
which when she confronted this guy,
yeah." It
the
was.
guy the opponent that she's going after.
Oh yeah, I was
Uh
like, "Really, you gonna
oh
do that?
man,
Yeah, when you're going through
yeah,
something and
like
you
you
want to."
talk about family, but you really need to destroy somebody else's. And I was like, ooh,
That
I
was
don't even know how
cold. I
you're
was
gonna
like,
come
"That's
back to
cold. You just
that.
walk off. Fuck
Everybody
that
was
shit."
like, literally, people. You can see people like have their pamphlets and be like,
Yeah, that shit. I'm not gonna be part of that. But really, it was a really good episode. So we'll talk about that in next week's or 2 weeks after that. So there'll be things to talk about. There'll be things to talk about.
yeah,
So stay tuned. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, of course, Instagram. Did I say Stitcher already? Stitcher, Amazon's Music, to the podcast, and I think I said YouTube, but YouTube, course, if you want to look at us, see our faces, and just make fun of how we look and how we react to things. I have been posting a lot of things about artists. I will post next week a couple videos on some underrated artists that I think are really underrated, and a lot of you guys that have been commenting and telling me that they're underrated. One of them I will say is Dan Mora. I don't think he gets enough love.
yeah. No, Dan Moore is doing his world's finest. I can't wait to see that. It looks
Michael
really good.
Turner, which I think, rest in peace. He was really good, really great. I wish we got to see more of his art. There were some couple releases that people did work on the ink itself. He only did the pencils, drawings for Wolverine, so that was really cool to
Hmm.
see and learn. And I did just work on one video, which I am going to butcher his name. Marco Cheeto. Cheeto. He does a lot of Daredevil stuff. And holy
Hmm.
hell did he work on his Daredevil stuff. And people loved it. So can't wait for that. That being said, we'll see you within probably next week or 2 weeks. I don't know. Our schedules are off a bit, but it's okay. Um, see you again. See you next time, Geek Gods.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Peace. All right, buddy.